We look at the teams that we know are going to have quarterback vacancies. Florida with Lagway leaving, LSU with Nussmeier going to the NFL, Indiana once Mendoza leaves for the draft, possibly Oregon depending on what Dante Moore does, possibly Alabama depending on what Ty Simpson does. These quarterbacks could come in and basically do what Mendoza did last season. Or
Yeah.
this season, last season going into this season. Yeah. So these could become big names at big
Yeah.
schools. All right, welcome back to Two Generations, One Mike. We have a great episode today. We had the first week of college football playoffs, a lot of great NFL action. Some of these divisional races are heating up. Pat, good to see you.
Hi, bud. Good to see you. Happy to be here with you. This is going to be an awesome episode to talk. Lots went on last weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we dive into the episode, we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Solid as Rock Storage. Looking for secure, dependable storage in the Sioux Empire? Choose Solid as a Rock Storage. Strong, reliable, and easy to access. Located on 271st Street, just off the T exit of I-29, Solid as a Rock Storage offers 4 convenient sizes to fit your needs. Whether you're storing household items, business equipment, or seasonal vehicles, you'll find space that works, right where you need it. Call today to reserve your unit at 605-338-9267. That's Solid as a Rock Storage in the Sioux Empire. Storage you can count on. All right, thank you to our sponsor. Before we dive into the episode, though, obviously we have to hear about Pat's jersey this week, so let's see it.
Oh, bud, get ready. This is going to be someone that you've never heard of before. May have heard the name, but you definitely don't know anything about him because he's back in the late 80s and 90s. Theo Fleury for the Calgary Flames.
Nice.
Fantastic. He was a ton of fun to watch. So he is from Oxbow, Saskatchewan, Canada, and was in the 1987 draft, drafted by the Calgary Flames. Coming into the league then in 88, kind of actually bounced in and out of the NHL and down to their developmental league and whatnot, but then came on in 1989 where they made the Stanley Cup Finals and won the Cup against, I believe it was the Montreal Canadiens, and he had a great career with the Flyers. To run through the timing of his career, he played all through the 90s with them, then was traded as what ended up happening is some of the Canadian teams started to really run into big market stuff versus small market stuff, and the competitiveness got tough, and he was nearing the end of his contract, and they traded him in, let me check my notes, Ben. They traded him in 99. Well, in 99, he became the Flames' all-time leading scorer, which ultimately got taken over about 10 years later by Iginla, who played with the Flames and was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. But near the end of 99, they traded him to the Rangers. At the end of that contract, he signed a 3-year deal with the Rangers. And he did make an all-star game after he was with the Rangers. But he all throughout his career, he battled substance abuse and mental health and that sort of stuff. And it started to really get to him playing in Manhattan in the lights of the Rangers and whatnot. They traded him to the Avalanche, who then traded him to the Sharks. And so it was it was tough. And I may have gotten those backwards. Avalanche to Rangers, Rangers to Avalanche, but he kind of finished there in LA or in New York was kind of the last bit, but he had a heck of a career. Listen to just a couple of these stats. He had over 1,000 points in his career. He averaged 1.026 points per game in the playoffs, and that's 32nd best ever in the NHL. Over all of his playoff games, 1.2026 points per game, which is, I mean, that's just super impressive.
But is it
He's, I believe, 61st on the all-time NHL points list.
okay?
So
Yeah.
I believe that's where it is. So anyway, yeah, was super super duper fun to watch. Career kind of teetered out near the end, but boy, through the '90s was just awesome, super exciting. He was only 5'6", and so people didn't think he was going to be, have even be in the NHL, let alone have the career that he had. I remember watching him when I was in junior high, high school, coming up through there and into college. So ton of fun.
Yeah, and that Flames jersey is cool. That's my first time like seeing one in person, and
You know what? It's the first time of me seeing one in person too when I got it,
yeah,
and it's pretty awesome. This one will definitely stay in the rotation.
yeah, for sure. All right, now getting into the episode. So, starting with college football here, the game we have to start with is Miami and Texas A&M. So, this was just a low-scoring dogfight. First college football playoff game ever that was 0-0 at halftime. Which, and when we were, a lot of missed field goals. So, it's not like they weren't getting in scoring position, but
Right.
that is an interesting stat. So, we've talked about in the past that Texas A&M had a little bit of a weak regular season schedule. Do you think this played into effect against
Uh,
Miami?
if you listen to some of the guys on TV, Ben, that you and I have talked about in the past and follow quite a bit, Paul Feinbaum, a couple of those other guys that are on when they cut away to the college stuff with game day,
Yeah.
um, he talked about how Texas A&M had an explosive offense, which they probably did.
Hmm.
But and you've heard me harp the last few weeks, last month actually,
Hmm.
that Texas A&M's SEC schedule, and again, you can only play who's on your schedule. I totally understand that. But one thing that we've been saying is that A&M didn't play anyone with over a 500 record,
Yeah.
and that was Missouri at the time. And so, I personally think it had an impact on them. I really do. I think that until you're really truly like, granted, and near the end of the season, they lost to Texas in the at the last game of the regular season,
Yep.
and I think that had an impact on them. I mean, when you're just not getting it's what it is, Ben. It's exactly when you asked me the other day, would you rather your college basketball team have a loss heading into the NCAA tournament? My answer was yes. I think you need to be pushed throughout the season. And granted, I just said they lost to Texas, but they didn't play anyone throughout the regular season that really pushed them. I don't think Notre Dame did.
And
Notre Dame
that
did,
was the
but
one.
Notre Dame was a early season game, and then when you're into the SEC schedule, unfortunately for them, that's the way the schedule worked out and who they played, and it just didn't. I personally think it just didn't keep them sharp.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like you could really see that because, I mean, most football people will say the game comes down to the lines, like down in the trenches. And I don't know if you saw, but during the pregame presser, one of the Texas A&M O lineman was asked about Ruben Bain Jr., who's Miami's D end, who's going to go in the first round, and the reporter asked if he needs to be worried about him, and he said, the O lineman said, "Not really. I don't think he's going to be a factor in this game." And Ruben Bain Jr. had 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and a blocked punt.
I mean, that's a beast of a
Dominant.
game.
Yeah.
That is a beast of a game. I think that Miami was given bulletin board material ever since Sunday night that the final playoff bracket came out. They had bulletin board material for 2 weeks or however long it's been. And not only did they have bulletin board material on all the stuff between Miami and Notre Dame and who should and should not have been in there, but then I think there was a lot of talking from the Texas A&M side that just said we're going to dominate them, blah blah blah, and that's what happened.
It's amazing how these guys don't learn. I feel like we've seen this in history. You've seen this in history in all sports. You're talking a lot before the game, and that's kind of your kiss of death. it's just giving them fuel for the fire.
100%.
And Miami
100%.
went out there and
If
got
I were a coach, if I
yeah.
were a coach, I would sit in that locker room and go, you guys, we can talk about it ourselves
Hmm.
in this, phones off, and we can talk about, how we're going to beat the heck out of them and this, that, and the other thing, and yada, yada, to build ourselves up. But no one say anything about just keep Miami out of your mouth when you're talking to the reporters over the course of the week. Just zip it. And I don't care if I'm talking about NFL, college football, basketball. I don't care what
Every
sport.
sport, yeah.
Just zip it.
Hmm.
I mean, if you remember back in the day when the Patriots were just crushing everybody and everyone would giggle because Bill Belichick would get up and say how strong the fill in the blank, whatever team they were playing next, the Jets were terrible then and they're terrible now. He would say, he would say stuff where the reporters would even start laughing. But all he talked about was how awesome the next team they were playing is. And
Hmm.
that's the way he was, I would assume, in the locker room, making sure that his guys stayed totally sharp and ready to just beat the heck out of everybody. I think back to a story when I worked with a guy that had played on the Nebraska football teams back in the mid 90s when they had that run of a number of national championships in a row with Tommy Frazier and whatnot. And he talked about how hard their practices were. The games were easier than their practices.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, they would just beat the heck out of everyone back then. I mean, it wasn't even close.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and then looking at our other playoff games, so the JMU Oregon game and the um, Tulane,
Tulane played Ole Miss
yes,
for a
yes,
second time this season, by the way.
Ole Miss, and it was the same thing both times.
Yep.
We saw it coming, a blowout. Now JMU actually did cover their spread, but it was more of a backdoor cover. It was never a game. It was 34-6 at halftime.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so, and I'll be honest, you and I, this is what we were cheering for, just these blowouts. So hopefully this affects the fixing of the college football playoff format.
Completely agree. Completely agree. I think that having blowouts on both of those ends or non-competitive,
Right.
was it a blowout like you see at the beginning of the football season where you have a huge powerhouse playing a D2 team, something like that? No, it wasn't 50-0 or 50-3, but I mean, they were both non-competitive in the fourth quarter. And so from a viewer standpoint, it was boring as heck unless you were a fan of Ole Miss and Oregon and just cheer for a win regardless of how it comes.
Yep.
But as a football fan looking for something competitive, it definitely was not that. And so I would agree with you. I think that we got what we were hoping for, and that will be ultimately a correction of how they do the playoffs and who's in and who's out.
Yeah, because Saban just said it the other day. It needs to be the 12 best teams in the playoffs. I mean, as fun as it is to see these group of five schools have a fun season, in college football, there's just with recruiting and NIL and transfer portal stuff, there's just level to this. These teams can't compete against the Power Four playoff teams. It's just
No, and it's
not going to happen.
and again, as you and I keep talking about when we're relating it to the NCAA basketball tournament,
Hmm.
because you get very, very small schools in there because they make sure every conference tournament winner has their slot. You're talking about a sample size of 68 versus 12. And so you need the best 12 in there for football versus 68. You're going to get it just doesn't make it.
Stealing anyone's spot in the basketball tournament.
In the Alabama Oklahoma game, you had a real interesting, well, you had 27 straight points from Alabama
Hmm.
after giving up 17 straight points.
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of crazy how that whole thing went down.
Hmm.
One other thing that I think is interesting is the ripple effects that this had from an off-field standpoint. So there was talk that if Alabama lost this game, that Kalen DeBoer would significantly consider the Michigan coaching vacancy.
Yeah.
Well, by him winning, I think that definitely takes him off the board. And also
Yep.
the way he won, I would sure hope that some of these Alabama fans that have been just banging on him kind of quiet down a little bit and show that the guy knows what he's doing. Again, another Paul Feinbaum comment. He said that at halftime of that game, some of the tweets and messages that he was getting from the Alabama faithful were some of the harshest he's ever seen. I mean,
Really?
yeah. So, of course, before Alabama's comeback. And he said that it was the ugliest. Like, there were people saying that I'll pay for the charter flight to send him to Ann Arbor. I mean, just brutal stuff like that. That's something he can say on TV. Lord knows what that was like. But
Yeah.
then, so looking ahead, though, real quick, you've got Alabama playing Indiana in the Rose Bowl.
Hmm.
You've got Miami playing Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Ole Miss playing Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and Oregon playing Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. So that's what we get to look forward to in 2 weeks. So that is New Year's. One game is on New Year's Eve,
Okay.
afternoon, evening, and then the other three are on New Year's Day.
Yeah. And one more point on Alabama. It was a great win for them. Their defense did a great job against Mateer. They were really getting to him without having to blitz either. Their pass rushers just got it done. Alabama's offense, what I noticed is the second half of the season, their rush offense has not been great. They've had to rely a lot on the pass. I thought it was the same way in the playoff game too. Every run they had was maybe 2 yards. They did not run the ball well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and a lot of their wide receivers had to make really impressive catches. So I'm curious to see. Great win for them, but if they can keep winning like this,
Oh boy.
it's going to be tough against Indiana.
Oh, I agree. I think it will. How about that catch that Simpson threw it down. I mean, it was a great pass,
Hmm.
but it was coming in behind the cornerback of Oklahoma, and that Alabama receiver goes up and over and picks it. I mean,
That was
one of the best catches I've ever seen.
yeah, no, that was cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
so a lot to look forward to for the playoffs. It'll be interesting how it shakes out. Um, so last week we obviously talked about the Sharon Moore stuff and the Michigan head coaching vacancy. Um, and one name that a lot of people had been bringing up was Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State. And this weekend, Arizona State locked him into a 5-year extension, paying him $7.5 million a year. Um, I mean,
That's amazing. The money that these coaches are getting for these extensions is unbelievable.
yeah, and to think that's like also a decent size less than what Lane's getting per year, it's crazy. 'Cause I think
It's
Lane's around
crazy.
11. Yeah. But I mean, with Alabama's win, like you just said, that kind of locks up DeBoer staying at Alabama, and now Arizona State locking up Kenny Dillingham. I'm just struggling to think of people who are gonna take this job. We said Jed Fish last week, which I haven't seen anything one way or the other on that when I've been
Yeah.
looking around. So nothing much to be said there from what we've already said, but I don't know who else they're gonna go with.
Well, it's funny that you say that because you and I both follow any number of different sites
Mm-hmm.
on some mainstream sites and some off off the beaten path sports sites, and there is zero I mean, it is quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't even little rumors out there that I have found anywhere. I don't know what they're going to do.
No, for most jobs during the coaching cycle, I'll see a notification from ESPN or Bleacher Report or whatever, and it'll be like top 5 coaches to fill, enter blank name vacancy.
Right.
I haven't seen these lists anywhere for Michigan with just people giving ideas. Yeah.
No. Yeah,
It's
you're spot on. It's crazy.
it's gonna be interesting how this shakes out.
This is Michigan football, Ben. I mean, that's
Oh,
a top five by name, a top five
job
college football
program. Yeah.
program in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether they actually, perform to that or not, but that's a top five coaching spot in the country, and they
Oh,
can't fill it.
easily. Yeah. Outside of SEC, that's probably the best job you can get.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yep.
And then so good move. It is a good move though. You had to do that if you're Arizona State, even though they had a bit of a down year. Um,
For sure.
they had injuries mount up, so good job to them. Even though I hate giving credit to Arizona State, good job to them locking Kenny Dillingham up.
What, what do you always say? Forks down.
Yeah, forks down, and then you give them one of these just like this. That's your forks down. Um,
Oh God.
and then uh, looking at now the transfer portal. So, I mean, as we're getting closer to this January 2nd date, we've had a lot of quarterbacks. We brought up the ones last week, and then since then, Cincinnati's quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, TCU's quarterback, Josh Hoover, Rocco Beck from Iowa State, and Bo Prabula from Missouri have all entered the portal.
Okay, something that I want to point out
Hmm.
that I think is super interesting and something that you found. I'll give you credit there.
Yeah.
Remind me what and mention for listener kind of. We were talking the other day, last week on the episode about Mendoza's stats relative to other winning Heisman winning quarterbacks over the past 4 or 6
We did
quarterbacks that have won the Heisman. We were comparing his stats.
Yeah.
You mentioned something just out of the blue when we were talking and prepping on Mendoza's numbers relative to some of these quarterbacks that are going into the portal. And it hit me like a ton of bricks when you said it,
Yeah.
because talk about what you were bringing up with the stats for some of these quarterbacks that are going into the portal.
Yeah. So, for a reminder, Mendoza, his stats this season 2,980 passing yards, 33 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And like we said last week, the Heisman guys from past years were significantly above that, like 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns type of stuff.
5,000 yards,
Yeah, exactly.
almost six. Yeah.
So so Rocco Beck and Bo Prabula, they battled injuries this year. So I will say those two, their stats are a little down. But Cincinnati's quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, had 2,800 passing yards and 27 passing touchdowns. And then Josh Hoover from TCU had 3,400 passing yards and 29 passing touchdowns. So these are good quarterbacks entering the portal. And Indiana's going to have a vacancy at quarterback, and they got Mendoza from Cal just last year. So these quarterbacks, they are playing from a stat standpoint at a very similar level to what Mendoza's doing.
Totally. You can actually say they're playing at
Yeah.
Heisman level quarterback level.
And then if we look at the teams that we know are going to have quarterback vacancies, Florida with Lagway leaving, LSU with Nussmeier going to the NFL, Indiana once Mendoza leaves for the draft, possibly Oregon depending on what Dante Moore does, possibly Alabama depending on what Ty Simpson does. These quarterbacks could come in and basically do what Mendoza did last season, or
Yeah.
last season going into this season. Yeah. So these are big names, not big names, could become big names at big
Yeah.
schools. Yeah. So looking at their stats, yeah, like you said, I just found that really interesting that they are very similar to Mendoza's.
When you said that to me, I just couldn't even believe it. I mean, so you have Indiana winning the Big Ten, winning the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State.
Yep.
And it's not like this is unprecedented where the quarterback of the best team wins the Heisman, regardless of his stats relative to other quarterbacks or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unprecedented.
No.
And we could go back. I'm not going to know a list of them off the top of my head, but I know there are a number of, like Gino Torretta or whatever, a couple other where they weren't necessarily the best player in college football. They were the best player or even the game manager or whatever on the team that is the best team.
Yeah. But I mean, you're right, there has been that, but looking at the past 6 quarterbacks like we did last week, they all did have though the stats to back it up too. They were the best quarterback on one of the best teams as well as some of the best passing stats in the country.
Yes.
And I don't want to discredit Mendoza at all. Watching him
No.
just from an eye test standpoint, he was really good. The comebacks, or not the comebacks, but the clutch situations he had against Oregon, Penn State, Iowa, those were all tight games, and he's the one that stepped up and made the tough throws. So I don't disagree with him winning the Heisman at all. It just is interesting to compare his stats to past quarterbacks, current quarterbacks. Yeah.
Yes. I don't want it to come across like that. Yeah. I mean, very deserving.
Let's hop over to the NFL. So some of these division races. So I'm just going to start it off with the Panthers beating the Buccaneers. That's my team. Now, it's even though the Panthers do have a 1-game lead with 2 weeks left, it's not over. So next week, the Panthers play the Seahawks and the Buccaneers play the Dolphins. So Buccaneers, from a matchup standpoint, do definitely have the advantage. And then the Panthers and Buccaneers play each other the last game of the season. So hopefully the Panthers can beat the Seahawks next week to help them out. But we'll see. Should be a fun race.
Well, it's going to be super cool, Ben, too, because if they're able to beat the Seahawks, then then it makes that last game, a much less pressure. I would imagine that they would probably rest a number of their starters, getting ready for the wild card round the next weekend.
Yeah.
If they lose and the Buccaneers win next weekend, and then it makes it an all or nothing, it makes it a playoff game.
Oh, yeah.
The following week, which is super fun and exciting. For your sake, I hope everything comes out that the Panthers are able to, rest a little bit that last weekend.
If we could beat the Seahawks and the Buccaneers lose to the Dolphins to lock up the 1 seed, or the division title, sorry, that would be huge. But
that would be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we both win, it's still a 1-game difference, so that last game would matter. Yeah.
Right. It depends on who owns the tiebreaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then if they both win the next weekend, or if they both win next weekend, and then the Buccaneers beat the Panthers on that last weekend,
then it's based on conference schedule.
Yeah.
I don't have those numbers in front of me right now, but
yeah. But either way, it just makes it huge.
Yeah. So one team I've been really impressed by is the Jags the past couple weeks.
Oh.
They have been, the Broncos have one of the best defenses in the league this season. And the Jaguars hung 34 on them yesterday.
Right. Yeah. And that is arguably the toughest place to play in the NFL.
Yes, that's true too. And
for an away team.
After scoring 48 last week against the Jets, but scoring 48 on anyone is impressive.
Right. I mean, it's an NFL team.
Yeah, so Jags currently in the 3 seed right now in the AFC.
Okay. Yep.
So they should win that division with the Texans making a
I
lot.
think it's kind of interesting that technically here we are 2 weeks, 2 weekends of football away from the end of the regular season, and there's only one division clinched, which is the NFC East by the Eagles. Everything else technically is open.
We had a really good NFC North game. Bears come back to beat the Packers in overtime. What a pass by Caleb to DJ Moore. That was
Unbelievable.
awesome. And
You
then,
know, you want to know one little side note that was sitting in the back of my head? I remember it would have been Saturday morning, watching, I don't remember what show, and Joe Fortnaw came on, or else it was Friday morning, and Fortnaw came on ESPN Game Day or Get Up and said that the last six teams after playing at Mile High, their following game they were 1-5 and 0-6 covering.
wow.
Yeah, and Green Bay, I
Yep.
don't remember what the spread, but either way, I don't remember who was favored. But either way, Green Bay didn't cover, so that held true.
Oh,
Lost,
it was
lost,
Bears.
and didn't cover.
Yeah, it was Bears 1.5.
Okay,
Yep.
so either way, that was kind
That's
of a
up
fun little
interesting.
stat that Joe threw out there, and it held true.
Yeah. And then staying in the NFC North, um, so Lions fall to the Steelers yesterday. And did you see the last call of that game?
Yes. Well, it was actually essentially back-to-back
Yeah.
calls down there on the goal line.
Yeah, the offensive pass interference call. Ooh,
Offensive pass interference on that very last play, but then offensive pass interference, they called the Lions for a pick,
yep,
and St. Brown went out towards to the right flat there, and Goff flipped it over to him. Then they called that, and then it was a couple plays later, which then ended up being the last play of the game. And if I were to give my uneducated opinion, simply as a sports fan, that was a pretty brutal call on that pick. I mean, he just kind of trotted out there. It was the defender that initiated the contact between the two.
yeah, yeah. It's not like he turned and put his hands on him or anything. No, it was an interesting call, and then also the
On,
fact that mhm,
well, I was going to say sorry. On the very last play though, it was pretty blatant. St. Brown
well,
runs right into him
yeah,
and shoves him and
that one,
turns
yeah,
around.
yeah,
Yeah, but the first one I thought was a pretty. Man, that's a pretty tough guy. As an NFC North Vikings fan, I really could have cared less.
yeah.
But if it went against the Vikings, I would have been furious.
Yeah, but that's a tough way to basically. The Lions' chances now in the playoffs are, I believe, 6%. So what they need
Yeah,
to win out, and they need the Packers to lose out, and
yep,
that's for the seventh seed. So the
right.
fact that that's kind of how your now anything can happen, but that's kind of how your season ends. That's unfortunate.
That's really tough.
Uh,
That's really tough. To think of the playoff teams from last year that were dominant
mhm.
and coming into this season were expected to perform, and for whatever reason haven't had the season that they planned. With the obviously the Chiefs,
Mhm.
with the Bills, teetering a little bit, the Ravens teetering. We haven't gotten to that one yet. The Lions and the Commanders. I mean, it's crazy how some of those have ebbed and flowed and are going to not only not be top of the going top seed going into the playoffs, but not even making the playoffs is really crazy. It's what makes the NFL so fun.
Yeah. I think it's just really interesting how the Lions defense, this is 2 seasons in a row now where they haven't been able to stay healthy. Last season, their entire D line was hurt. I mean, what show were we watching with Dan Campbell? And he said we were bringing in guys off the street to play on the D line.
Right.
This season, it's their entire secondary that's hurt. I know the other day, if it was this week or last week, 4 of the 5 starters in the secondary were out.
That's
These
brutal.
players can't stay healthy. It's actually insane.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Brutal.
Your Vikings beat the Giants.
Hey, Ben, guess who got hurt?
JJ McCarthy.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I think it was a hand this time.
Yeah, I saw the trainers messing with it on the sideline, and like he doubled over in pain once they hit a certain spot on it.
And I'm not, I mean, it sucks to get hurt,
Yeah.
but geez Louise. So we go through missing all of the rookie season, right? Injury. Comes into this season, second game of the season, goes out with an injury and misses 3 games or whatever it was. Comes back, plays a couple games, goes out with a whatever, missed a game, comes back. I mean, my guess is, I mean, do you think he's going to? Well, I haven't seen any injury report yet this morning to see what it was and what the expectations are for the next 2 weeks. But man,
And it's hard too because it's not like all of his games have been bad this season. He has had a couple good games, but just the game after he has a good game, it's either he gets hurt or it's a bad game. I mean, last week against the Cowboys, I was actually pretty impressed with what I saw. Besides a few
totally.
bad passes, but he showed some stuff. And then this
Yeah.
week starts off the game not great and then gets hurt.
Have you seen, one of the things that they say they're working on with him is how hard he throws the ball on short passes. Have you seen the meme where it's him and he's holding one of those t-shirt, compressed air guns, and he's shooting the person, and the person standing about 2 feet away from him with a t-shirt gun. It's awesome. He
Awesome.
rifles those things like the guy's 60 yards down the field, and he's right off in the flat to his right.
When I was watching Vikings Cowboys, there was one play where they're probably on the 5 yard line or so, and uh, Jefferson runs a great route to the corner, and he doesn't have a cornerback within 5 feet of him, and McCarthy just throws a rifle, and yeah, it hits Jefferson in the hands, but Jefferson had to jump, and the ball just bounces off because it's going 100 miles per hour. It's like just
Oh,
float it in there.
God, jeez Louise. It's just brutal. And I these quarterbacks that are just sometimes you just have that. I mean, here's a question for you. You're a Baltimore Ravens fan. They play a game against Patriots last night that had huge playoff implications for both teams. Ravens trying to make the playoffs, via winning the division versus the Steelers. Patriots battling between wild card and division win, which can impact, and also battling for the number one seed with the Broncos.
Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson goes down with a new injury, a back. It was the hamstring a few weeks ago. It was whatever before that. That last year, some injuries. I mean, injuries are starting to pile up, especially for a guy like him that is extremely mobile,
Yeah.
which means there's something to be said. Yes, being mobile is great for being able to escape stuff, but also it also puts you in harm's way as you're running and trying to get a few of those extra yards with these linebackers that are just flying all over the place.
Yeah.
I think back to the tall, prototypical NFL quarterback, the tall, stand in the pocket, throw. I remember watching Peyton Manning his last few years in Denver. So he had gone through the bad neck injury that made him leave that he left the Colts, had those last few great years with the Broncos, and he just learned how to not take a hit.
Yeah.
Brady in his last few years just didn't, they just inherently know how to not get hit. You go down, you do whatever. And it's interesting how some of these younger quarterbacks haven't learned that. Does Lamar Jackson learn that now? I mean, it just is he's an inherent, I mean, he's super fast and able to escape stuff, but you end up taking hits, and you're
And
not as big as those guys.
that's part of his, like when he came back from the hamstring injury and wasn't able to run at full speed. You could tell he wasn't running the ball as much. He didn't play as good. He needs the option to run.
Right.
Yeah.
But then again, it's
And
like
then,
a catch 22, but then
yeah.
you take hits. So let me ask you a question, a fun around the table question like you and I do. What do you do as a GM? When do you make the decision to move on? And we're talking about MVP caliber quarterback from a year ago
Yeah. No,
or
I
two or
think,
whatever it was.
I think,
MVP winner actually in the years before that.
yeah, two-time.
Two
I
time.
think because it's a level like comparing the Cardinals to the Ravens, how they're both in similar quarterback situations, shorter quarterback. Kyler's obviously smaller than Lamar, but similar play styles. Rush on the ground, but can also pass it. Um, we're talking about two different caliber quarterbacks here. I think because Lamar's proven himself, two-time MVP winner. Yeah, he struggled in the playoffs in the past, but he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think this season's, even though they're technically still in it, the season's a little bit of a wash. You get him healthy going into next season, and you stick with him. That's what I think. Whereas Arizona, Kyler Murray overall, he's shown flashes. He's had good games. I think he's made the playoffs once, if I'm not mistaken, in his career. It's a lot easier to move off of that.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
you
I
say?
totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think as a GM and you're sitting in Baltimore's yeah, let's just assume they don't make the playoffs. Okay. I mean, they've got to play out, the Steelers are in the driver's seat. I forget, I'm not going to take the time right this second to look up the records and whatnot, but Steelers definitely are in the driver's seat. I don't think that it's a divisional clinch yet.
Hmm.
But let's just assume it plays out that way. And you're the GM. You're sitting in the you're sitting in your office postseason. I think you need to ask the question: at
I
what
w-
point are we there with Lamar? And then it brings up also the John Harbaugh question.
yes, that's a good question because is it one of those situations where you just need a new voice? Is the same voice getting old? Because he has been there since, gosh, mid to later 2000s, right? Right in there, right?
He's right on the heels of Tomlin. I mean, they kind of came through everything together.
Let's call it 2009, 2010, something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
I will say though, this season's, if you look at the advanced stats, they do have one of the worst O lines. So that's something you have to retool. Looking at Lamar and his injuries and how he plays, you need to get him a better O line.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but if we continue
Anyway,
to look at quarterbacks who rush the ball, so Jackson Dart has obviously had a couple concussions this year, whether they're diagnosed or not, but he's taken a decent amount of hits.
yeah.
Um, so an interesting question I've seen on multiple shows. So they currently have the number one pick. Um, Dart's been good this year. Do you stick with Dart or trade, knowing kind of how he plays? Do you trade him while his value's still good right now and take Mendoza, or probably trade back in the draft and get more capital? What would you do if you're the GM?
Love the question. I right now would 100% stay with Jackson Dart. I obviously am not in New York. You are, so
Yep.
you'll be able to answer this in the way that I'm going to say it better than me. But I think he appears to be a gigantic fan favorite.
Yep.
I think his energy is undeniable. He obviously has fantastic chemistry with Scadaboo. I think you build around that. You just have to, and you leg this thing out.
I agree. Like so everyone loves him and Scattaboo. They're such a fun duo, the way their personalities mix. But yeah, from a player standpoint, I personally think looking at all of team sports from a GM standpoint, I think drafting the right quarterback is one of the hardest things to do. There's just
It's
so
close to the hardest thing in sports
yeah, there's
management.
been so many busts before and guys that haven't worked in certain situations, whatever. You found something that works. Now, Giants haven't been great this year, but Dart, when he's been in, he has been good. So if you have a guy, I think you have to stick with that guy.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
It was just interesting how much I've seen this on shows where I don't even really think it's a discussion. If you have the guy, you stick with it.
Yeah, I remember you bringing that up in our pre-production meeting, and I said, "Oh my goodness, I didn't even know there was a question of that."
Yeah.
But but now I mean, I get the question, and I would with I
Hmm.
armchair quarterback, armchair GM would definitely stay with him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, and then we brushed over the Ravens. So with their loss to the Patriots, their path to win the division. So they need to win their final two, and they need the Steelers to lose to the Browns. So it's looking like their season's pretty much over. A couple big NBA storylines. The Knicks beat the Spurs to win the NBA Cup, but did you see that they are deciding not to put a banner up for that in MSG?
Yes, I
We,
saw that.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the past two NBA Cup winners, the Lakers and Pacers, have put banners up.
Oh, have they?
I'm pretty sure. Um, which I honestly don't feel one way or another about it, just because the
Yeah.
NBA Cup's so new. If you want to put a banner up, great, but I also get it's a in-season tournament that doesn't mean a whole lot. So,
I mean, it does and it doesn't. I mean, you won a tournament.
yeah,
Um, you won a tournament against, fellow NBA teams. I mean, it's like when you look I mean, in the Raptor, you and I have been at Madison Square Garden. We've been at, Boston Garden. We've been at, any number of arenas around the country, and they put up like division, or
that's true.
division things
Division
like
titles.
the NBA. I mean, what the hell,
Yeah. No,
you
that's
know?
a really good point. Yeah.
So if you're gonna, I mean, I think if you're going to put, because the NBA in the end seeds their teams like the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. When you enter the playoffs, it's seeded, you know, 1 through 8, best to worst record,
Yep.
regardless of your division,
Correct. Yeah.
which is
Not like
obviously
football.
different than the NFL from
Yep.
what we're talking about. So, th- but they do have divisions within each conference.
They do it for scheduling purposes. Yeah.
Yes, but they'll put up division ban. I mean, we
Yeah.
just saw them. They'll put up division banners,
Hmm.
which in the end doesn't mean anything going into the playoffs.
Correct. Yeah.
So I don't see any difference between putting up a NBA Cup banner and that.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
And
Um,
so, but again, I'll answer same as you. I really don't care either way. I put it up, don't put it up, whatever. I'll cheer for you if you put it up. I'll clap when they do the banner raising ceremony. I won't miss it if they don't.
yeah. Exactly. And then the other team I just wanted to touch on. So the Cleveland Cavaliers, last season, they were the hottest team in the Eastern Conference through the regular season. They had the amazing, I want to say it was somewhere around a 16-game win streak early in the year. They won 64 games last year, and then they lost to the Pacers in the playoffs pretty bad. And everyone was fairly surprised by it because the Cavs have a good roster. And then now this season, they're in ninth in the East right now, and they were the favorites to win it. Them or the Knicks were pretty close, but everyone thought it was one of those two's conference this year. And the problem is they're currently in the second apron, which makes it hard to move players and just make overall trades.
And explain for listener Ben, that is relative to your salaries that you're paying, right? It's your overall money spent. When you say
Yeah.
second apron, explain
Yeah.
what that means.
So there's the salary cap. Then you get into the first apron, which is your luxury tax. And then you get into the second apron, which is an even higher luxury tax, but it also affects what draft picks you can trade. You can trade less future first rounders, and then the amount of money you have to do basically one for one deals, moving the same amount of money or less than. You can not take on new money through trades. And the Cavaliers have the most expensive roster in the NBA this season. I did just learn that fact. So they are significantly into the second apron. So it's not like you can just sell off players and tank either, because a lot of other teams aren't able to take a significant amount of money on because they
Right.
want to be avoiding the apron. So it'll be
Yep.
interesting how this shakes out for them.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point, and I love that analysis, Ben. Like, we haven't really talked that much in detail on the economics relative to how a professional sports team operates, and that's great analysis. I think that I remember the Cavs went into last season as the number one seed in the East,
Hmm.
and did they win? They went out in the first or second round? Second round.
Second, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, it was the second round.
Yeah.
Either way, obviously didn't perform anywhere close to what expectations were last year. And then to come into this year with more or less the same roster, few additions and subtractions here and there, but obviously spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
And to have that situation be what it is, and then be handcuffed by the second apron is just brutal.
Yeah, Shams reported that currently the only two untouchable players on their roster are Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. But
Yeah,
even saying that, like you said, you're very handcuffed. So,
tough.
and then college basketball, the big game of the week, Duke gets upset by Texas Tech, blows a 17-point lead.
Yeah,
Um,
very uncharacteristic of a Duke team.
very uncharacteristic of a Duke team, and they were undefeated going into that game. But it's like we brought up earlier in this episode. Texas Tech's a good ranked team. They're, somewhere in the around 13, right in there. I forget their exact number, maybe 11. But you lose this one early in the season to them. Kind of teaches you about not getting comfortable with the lead. It's probably a good learning experience for them. Just like
I would absolutely totally agree with you.
as a Duke fan, I wouldn't be concerned as long as the players take it as a learning experience.
100%. And you can draw on that. You can draw on what happened on a 17, losing a 17-point lead. As a coach, you can draw on that
Yep.
and continue to use that as fuel when you're heading into the slog of of the regular season, which is what they're entering. I always look at the college basketball season kind of interesting, like all these games that start before the holiday break. You got all the holiday tournaments and the fun, the Maui Invitational and all these, and the one down in the Bahamas and
Yep.
all these cool, fun places that you get to go. Madison Square Garden has the Jimmy V Classic and just neat, fun tournaments and games here. Then you get into the new year and you've got January and February and you're traveling around. If you're anywhere across the Midwest and the Upper East, of just going into these places, it's the doldrums of the winter. It's cold. It's cold. It's dark at 4 p.m, and you're heading into the arena for your third game of the week. And it's just like, and you can, as a coach, you need something to fuel that and to say, hey, this happened to us. It's not like I'm preaching like, don't let this happen to us. It happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of a neat way that you can draw upon that loss.
Yep. I agree. It will be interesting to see, because I know Arizona, yeah, they've beaten all these ranked teams to start the year. Now they get into a small stretch where they play just these kind of bottom of the barrel teams. Next game they play Bethune, and then they play South Dakota State. So I'm just hoping they don't get too comfortable,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Yeah. That's why the coaches make the big bucks.
Yep, exactly.
Actually, and you can say the players. Sorry,
Yeah,
the players
now you
make
can
the
say
big
the
bucks
players
too
for
now.
college, yeah. All right, this or that this week for our last segment. We're going to
Yes.
be doing video games.
Oh boy.
Yep. So,
Yes. This is great.
Yes, which you do have some experience in the video game world. It's a little more me,
Oh,
but
God,
yeah,
I used to play video games as, as a young boy, and then, junior high, high school, college, played a lot. And
yep,
then you and I played a lot when you were younger.
yep. So do you want to kick it off?
I'll kick it off.
All
Sure.
right. Yeah.
Sure. All right. I've got some honorable mentions before I get to my favorite.
Yep.
Okay. In college, so the platform that we all played that was the best one, you still had the PlayStation, Xbox wasn't around yet. You had the Sega Genesis system. It was
Okay.
fantastic. Loved it. And you had Nintendo also,
Mhm.
but in college those were the two that you pretty much found in various dorm rooms. We would spend hours playing the NHL series each year. We would get the new game, and so and I went to college fall '91. So 91, 2, 3, and 4. The NHL series on Sega Genesis platform back then because
Yep.
they were using so it didn't look very realistic, but they were using real players
Mhm.
and they played like they were. So Wayne Gretzky for the LA Kings was unstoppable. Like a lot of times we said you can't play with them. It was kind of like Bo Jackson in the Raiders for Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
No one was allowed to really use them.
Hmm.
But oh my gosh, we would sit up until the wee hours of the morning playing Sega Genesis hockey. Um, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna call upon. This is calling upon yours and my years together of 2K 14, 15, and 16.
Hmm.
Those were fun years where Ben would play with current teams, and that's really kind of how you learned the rosters of the NBA back then
Yep.
in those years. And you played with the current teams, and then that was when 2K started bringing up some of the past big teams. So, like, the Orlando Magic, when they were really good, they'd have that team from 90, whatever, and
Yeah.
some of those old teams. So, and I would always grab a team that had a really good 3-point shooter, like the old Bulls team with Steve Kerr,
Yep.
and I would just shoot 3-pointers, or Dennis Scott on the Magic, um, or even Del Curry on that Charlotte Hornets team.
Yep.
And then I'd dunk with Kendall Gill, and you'd turn to me and go, "Who the heck is Kendall Gill?" And I go, "Illinois, blah blah blah." This is so much fun.
Yeah. That
Um,
was fun.
I will say also on my honorable mention that has a soft spot in my heart is the Nintendo Wii Lego Star Wars. You and I played that all the time. That
Yep.
was just a really, really fun game when you were really little then.
Yep. Yep.
You were really little. And a couple times when you were homesick and
Hmm.
uh, we'd play that. And um, PGA. So now we're into my final uh, uh, honorable mention and then the winner.
Hmm.
Both are the same title, Tiger Woods PGA Tour, EA Sports.
Yep.
'09 is my last honorable mention. That was the first year that they had Wolf Creek
Hmm.
on there from Mesquite,
Yeah.
Nevada, which is just a super cool course. And then the winner, my number one, is Tiger Woods PGA Tour, EA Sports PGA Tour 12. And that was the first year that they had the Masters or Augusta National on there. And I never had seen Augusta National digitally at all. And to actually be able to, play it uh, was super cool. So there
That's
you go.
all right. So I'll give a couple honorable mentions like you did. So my
Yeah.
first honorable mention is Fortnite. My friends and I, it comes in spurts for us, but I mean, we've been playing it since probably eighth grade, and
Right.
now we're graduated from college, and still every once in a while we hop into it. But
Sure. I was
during
going to ask you if you still play it.
it's been a little bit, but yeah, during college we would all hop on together, even though we're all over the country, and it is just a good one to play with your friends. During COVID, we had a lot of fun with it. My next honorable mention, being a big Star Wars guy, Battlefront 2. If anyone hasn't played it, it's kind of like a Call of Duty version of Star Wars.
Oh,
In That one has always been a lot of fun for me, just being a big Star Wars guy. I like that better than some of the games they do where it's more you're doing a story or campaign or whatever.
Yep.
Um, then my next honorable mention, I will go with NBA 2K19. That was the one I played most during COVID. I did the My Team where you collect the cards and make the team, and I just grinded that out, and I got the best LeBron card in the game, and I was super happy when I did that. But then my favorite one was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. That was the one during COVID when they introduced Warzone, and my friends and I, that was a lot of my gaming was during COVID, but I
Yeah.
had two friends where all of us, my big friend group would play Fortnite until 1 in the morning because we didn't have school or anything. And then everyone would hop off and there'd be three of us left. And we were working on our gun camos for our guns in Call of Duty.
That's
We're all like,
right.
wait, are you guys staying up to work on your camos? And we'd be like, yeah. So the three of us would be working on that together till, gosh, 2 or 3 in the morning. And oh, it was so much fun.
That's awesome. Wait, let me ask you this going back. There was one. So for a listener, I would go in and a lot of times, regardless of what game he was playing, and hang out with Ben and watch whether it was Fortnite or basketball or Modern Warfare or Star Wars, Battlefront, whatever. And I like just watching too. It was fun. But there was one of the military games that we would play, and you and I would be on a team, and we'd get dropped in a map in Paris or whatever.
Modern Warfare 3.
That was so much fun.
Yeah, that was fun. And there'd be the waves of guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So it started with just a couple, and then it would get more and more and more and more, and we'd be having to work as a team. And oh
Yeah.
gosh, that was fun. Those were good times.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
That was a fun this or that.
that was a good this or that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And a good
awesome.
episode. We have a lot more good NFL coming up. 2 weeks of regular season left. So it's going to
And it's fun because there's a lot of games that are essentially playoff games already.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. Pat, good to be with you.
Love you,
Uh,
bud. Thanks
follow
for having me.
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Yeah. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.